Alright, so this week Duality is the featured dungeon of the week, which means it is farmable and or you can get your pinnacles. You can also do the master version. This is just a solo GAHLRAN guide, so to speak, and the build that I am using is totally applicable throughout the entire dungeon. So if you want, you can use the same build. It is also applicable for the master version, which is what I did before I put together this solo video on GAHLRAN, so I did the entire run on master. Anyway, so you can take a close look at the loadout that I'm using here. I will go over it more towards the end of the video, but I wanted to try and kind of give a live guided version of how to beat GAHLRAN in general and solo. So here we go. Alright, so the first thing we got to take note of, I'm just checking my fragments there. We immediately can transport into the nightmare realm because the bell is open, so there's no bell keepers to kill there. First thing I do as soon as I transport is get rid of the bell keepers. That is going to open up the bell on the opposite side of the bell keepers to teleport back to reality. And then immediately I start looking at my mini map and then visually checking the rooms. But basically once you get like 20 feet away from a room, you can tell from your radar if there's any scions in there. We're looking for 2 rooms with 2 scions. And we're going to go into the first one, kill the scion. When we kill the scion, the standard essence will appear, which is going to be a flag with an icon that we have to grab and bring back to reality and dunk in the appropriate spot. Find the other room. The other room is always on the opposite side. It could be at the front or the back, or I call the top and the bottom. Right now I'm at top. Kill that scion, but you don't grab the flag. This is just a little trick to save time and get more damage time on GAHLRAN. So kill both scions, but only grab one flag. Doesn't matter which one you grab, just make sure that you leave one flag there. So I had axe, I dunked axe. That is going to open up the door. Colossus is going to be inside. You kill the Colossus. You don't even have to kill the Colossus, but basically you just got to get in the room and then you got to shoot the bell, right? So if you notice, I killed the bell keepers immediately before, because if you don't kill the bell keepers, the bell will be locked. So now we're inside the shade room. We have to kill all the shades. Throwing hammer is spectacular for it. Fusion rifle is also very good. As we exit the room, take out the bell keepers, and then we want to go to the room where we left the last flag. So I remembered it was top right. That's what I'm calling top right. Now, very important, I left the scion there. So I just took the flag and ran. I left the scion because now when I go back to reality, I dunk, and then I go back to the nightmare realm. That scion is going to be inside the room with the shades because I didn't kill him, and then that gives me the opportunity to kill the scion with the shades, and that is going to give me 10 more seconds of nightmare collapsing, and that means I get 10 more seconds to damage GAHLRAN. So here we go, we're rinse and repeat the rooms. See, I didn't take the bell keeper out right away, so I couldn't shoot the bell. Alright, so this is the second flag, the second shade room. Every 2 flags, you're going to get damage versus GAHLRAN. So because this is the second shade room, we've dunked the second flag. After we're done with this room, GAHLRAN is going to be damageable. There's the scion that I was talking about. Watch, 10 more seconds on the clock. Actually, even a little bit more. Kill the bell keepers, importantly, and then take a note that I need to exit damage phase when there's about 10 seconds left on the clock, and the bell is going to be on the opposite side of the bell keepers. That Bellkeeper booped me away, so I just used one of my Hammer of Sol hammers to take him out from far. That was kind of a panic super because I got pushed away by the Bellkeeper and I was surrounded by ads. I mean, it was a smart super either way because I'm using Synthoceps and I was surrounded by ads, so Biotic Enhancement was procced. So I was actually, you know, taking care of all the ads and getting extra super damage. Alright, so got just enough time left on the clock and I exit with 1 second left, which is a bit risky. Normally, I try to save my super for the getaway, right? So what you could do is save your super for 15 to 20 seconds left, pop your super, and then just back away towards the bell, constantly throwing your super hammers at GAHLRAN. That way you're still damaging them while you're exiting. So that is basically how you damage GAHLRAN and how you beat him. And now we're just rinse and repeat. We just do the same thing over and over again until we kill him. And one thing to note is if you're confident that you're going to kill him in one phase, you don't have to bother killing the Bellkeepers as you exit the Shade Room, right? Like, he's just got a sliver of health left. You think, well, I got 1 minute to do 5 seconds worth of damage and he's dead. You don't have to bother with the Bellkeepers, because once you beat GAHLRAN, you just automatically exit the Nightmare. You don't have to shoot a bell to get out. So then to go into the build a bit, I do have on my channel my solo flawless duality run, which I did in, I believe, season 18, Season of Plunder, with Arc Titan instead of Sunbreaker. Back then, Arc Titan was extremely powerful. Since storm grenades have been nerfed, but more importantly, Heart of the Most Light was kind of nerfed to the ground. I don't even want to use it anymore. So basically, when I did my solo flawless, I was able to just use Heart of the Most Light with storm grenades and or pulse grenades, and you could just spam them like crazy. As you exit the Shade Room, you could just T-crash GAHLRAN to get to him immediately, which does a significant amount of damage. And then you just combo Lament with your thruster dodge and toss in storm grenades, and he's basically being jolted and damaged from your grenades the entire time while you're using Lament. Also back then, one of the difference, there was another thing to consider, was we had a different mod and build crafting system. So Lucent Blade was a charged with light mod, which basically gave 35% extra sword damage for a certain amount of time if you had stacks of charged with light and Lucent Blade. But that was never stackable with Radiant, right? So you didn't really benefit from using Sunbreaker and Lament per se, because you couldn't stack Radiant with it. But now we have a totally different mod system. Lucent Blade is different entirely. Now it's just called Lucent Blades, and it increases your sword recharge rate. But you can stack Radiant with Solar Surge mods. So essentially you can get a 22% damage buff from Solar Surge mods if you stack 3, and then you get another 25% extra damage from Radiant. So you're stacking those two buffs together, which multiplicatively would give you more damage than Lucent Blade ever did with Charged with Light. So Sunbreaker, it was very good back then. I just didn't use it because I wanted to be a little bit different back when the dungeon came out. But this time around, I thought it would be really good to capitalize on Radiant with Solar Surge mods and Lament. So I'll get into Lament and the builds a little bit more, but to go over the build that I'm using here, obviously we're on Sunbreaker, and the fragments are the first thing I go to. So, well, and the exotic armor that I'm using. I'm using Synthoceps, which just increases my melee damage when I have biotic enhancements procced on the left side of my screen. Basically, if I'm surrounded by ads, like 2 or 3 ads, I get like double melee damage, which counts for your throwing hammer. So keeping in mind that I'm basically going to using my throwing hammer as my bread and butter for ad clear and for proc and radiant, that leads me to the fragments that I'm going to use. So obviously I'm using Ember of Torches, because that is going to make me radiant every time I hit something with my hammer. And then I'm using Solace, which is going to give me 50% more time on radiant. So instead of 8 seconds, I get 12 seconds. As well as restoration. So when I do get restoration from my healing grenade or from my sunspots, I'll have an extra 50% time on that as well. Then Ember of Empyrean is going to reset the timer every time I get a kill with a solar ability or a solar weapon. Right, so in this case it's mainly solar abilities because it's my throwing hammer. I'm not doing ad clear with my sword, not refreshing Ember of Empyrean with my sword, I'm just refreshing it with my hammer. That's all I need. Frankly, you don't even really need weapons for ad clear when you're using this build, just the throwing hammer does the work. Then, like I said, healing grenade, just as a backup. I don't really need a damage grenade because my throwing hammer is already doing so much damage with Synthoceps and the aspect Roaring Flames, especially when it's ×3. So that takes care of that. Then, as far as the weapons that I'm using, obviously Lament, in my opinion, Lament is just the best weapon to use in this entire dungeon. Even for Keitel, I know a lot of people like to do the whole swap linear fusion rifle, Wither Horde on Keitel, but Lament just heals you as you're doing damage. So I mean, it's invaluable for that, especially for doing solo, and if you're going for solo flawless. Just for soloing these boss fights, obviously you can't die during the boss fight and you restart the encounter, and that's frustrating. So you need a survivable build. Lament does big damage and big healing. Then I'm using Harsh Language, which is the waveform world drop grenade launcher that we got this season. It's kind of hard to farm, but if you do a bunch of terminal overloads, if you did the glitch where you can get 3 chests at the end by exiting the zone and returning to the zone, you can loot the chest more than once. You can sometimes get it from that. On this one, I've got Repulsor Brace on it, which works well this season because the seasonal artifact mod, Volatile Flow, whenever I pick up an Orb of Power, I have volatile rounds on my void weapons. So Harsh Language is going to make targets volatile, they're going to explode. That counts as a void debuff kill, which is going to give me a void overshield. So if I lose my hammer, I could just crutch on my waveform for the overshield, right? Because the throwing hammer heals me too as I'm killing stuff with my hammer, right? So I crutch on the restoration and the healing and the cure from the hammer. If I lose my hammer, I lose my survivability. So Harsh Language is kind of a backup there. Also, I'm using Bricks from Beyond, so if I do kill a yellow bar or an orange bar with a void weapon, there's a good chance they drop heavy. And you can see I never struggled with heavy in this entire encounter. So, and then as far as the mods go to complement the build, this is kind of critical. You need Lucent Blades on your chest piece, preferably 2 copies. I tried doing it with 1 copy, and it's not very consistent with the combos. You can just easily do your Lament combos, 2 powered light attacks, 2 heavy attack, or sorry, 2 light, 1 heavy, and then you just do 2 uncharged swings, and then you're straight back into 2 light powered, 1 heavy powered. So that's the combo. Lucent Blades on your chest piece is going to ensure that you have enough sword energy to keep that combo rolling consistently. Then triple surge mods for solar on the legs, which is for the extra 22% damage. Heavy-handed on the arm piece, so anything that I kill with my hammer spawns an orb of power. That gives me the armor charge. Void Loader would be good for your wave frame. Then impact induction to get more healing grenades from throwing hammer kills, and hands-on to get super energy from throwing hammer kills. But that is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one.